Canadiens in better position with Pearson over Hoffman. Hello fans, welcome to the Montreal News channel. Now we're going to do a very in-depth analysis of Pearson and Hoffman, but before that, don't forget to like our video to support the channel. All else being equal, the Montreal Canadiens should probably prefer Mike Hoffman over Tanner Pearson. A lot of what matters even is equal, as both players have single years left on their deals and took up roster spots up front, preventing the Habs from devoting space to their younger players. That's where the similarities end, for better or worse. For worse, Hoffman, who got traded away in the initial Jeff Petry trade from this past offseason, has a history of more offensive success. For better, Pearson has a cap hit that's lower by $1.25 million. However, to be fair, the Canadiens did retain $2,343,750 of Petry's hit, when they RETRA'd him to the Detroit Red Wings a few weeks later. Admittedly, there's also the fact teams are limited to 3 retained salary spots per season. The Canadiens used up 1 in that subsequent Petry trade. So now that the Canadiens have 2, Joel Edmundson, they're at something at a disadvantage in their rebuilding efforts. That can't nor should it be denied. That means, when it comes to the worst current Canadiens contracts, the Canadiens are handcuffed getting rid of them, adversely impacting how the trade deadline goes. It all begs the question, did the Canadiens do themselves a disservice making this specific series of moves, dating back to early August 2023? Remember, the reason the Canadiens presumably traded Hoffman was to open up a roster spot for Jesse Ylonen, for example. Now that Pearson's been acquired in his place, that door's been slammed shut in that regard for all intents and purposes. So, what did the Habs and general manager Kent Hughes gain, really? In the initial Petry trade, the Canadiens dealt away Hoffman and Rem Pitlick, who likely wouldn't have made the roster anyway. They gained a 2025 second-round pick, forward prospect Nathan Laguerre and goalie Casey DeSmith. When they traded Petry to the Red Wings, they retained the aforementioned $2+ million of his salary, getting defenseman Gustav Lindstrom, and a conditional 2025 fourth-round pick in exchange. The Canadiens of course then traded DeSmith to the Vancouver Canucks to get Pearson, and a 2025 third-round pick. So all in all, the Habs are up Laguerre, Lindstrom and the additional picks they've gotten, second, third, fourth in 2025, while arguably in neutral territory looking at it simply from a roster space standpoint up front. Hughes did say the Canadiens' pro scouts see Lindstrom as having reached 70% of his potential. It's not a bad sign, considering he's averaged 15:37 in ice time up to now as a 25-year-old. However, keep in mind, he peaked at 16:32 in his rookie season. He effectively dropped every season since, playing 14:10 on average in just 36 games in 2022-23. So on the fair chance Lindstrom doesn't develop as hoped. Was there a point in all this or was it an exercise in futility? The fact is, Hoffman wasn't working out, especially not as the boon to the power play ex-general manager Marc Bergevin likely hoped he would become when he signed the forward 2 years ago. The power play has dropped from 19.2% in 2020-21, before Hoffman got acquired, to 13.7% in 2021-22, and 16.1% in 2022-23. He had to go. Ultimately, in Hoffman you have a forward who needs top 6 ice time to be effective based on his skill set. In Pearson, you may get less production, but someone with more of a two-way game, who can be effective in a bottom 6 role. Granted, for Pearson to maximize his trade value for the purposes of a mid-season trade, you'd give him top 6 ice time as well. However, Pearson is unlikely to ever get you a first-round pick or top prospect. So the difference between what he gets you with a few more points, it's negligible. Still, you went from someone in Hoffman many envisioned the Canadiens would have had to add a sweetener to in order to trade to someone in Pearson who is much more marketable. True, the Habs are down 1 retained salary spot, but it's very much possible Pearson doesn't use one up on his way out of town, assuming that's where he's headed, a good bet. For the Canadiens' purposes, if they absolutely had to choose between Hoffman and Pearson, they chose right. They may have ended up number of roster spots neutral at forward, but they're more realistically up 1 in the top 6 and on the power play. Hoffman may be more valuable to teams seeking more offense, but for the Habs, who are seeking more development on the part of their younger players, Pearson comes out ahead. And now, Montreal Canadiens supporter, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion about this? Put your opinion in the comments. I don't know if you're aware, but your opinion is very important to us. I'll be back with more urgent news at any moment.